All right, welcome in. Let's get going. MPW Digital Postgame Show. I am Chase Parham. Thanks for everybody jumping in the stream here. I'm assuming you guys can hear me. Give me some thumbs up or something. We got a good show tonight. Ole Miss 73, Mercer 7. The Rebels score. I guess let's do a little bit of math here. 66 straight after Mercer had scored a 75-yard run on their first play from scrimmage. All Rebels from there. We are going to go in a minute to Jeffrey Wright. Then we're going to talk to Pete Deweese. I got Brian Rippey in the bullpen if needed, and Neil McCready coming after all the press conference stuff today. So good show coming up here with you. We'll watch some football. We'll talk about the Rebels. We'll go through a crazy offensive stat game for Ole Miss. Ole Miss terrific at the quarterback position. Trey Harris setting the Ole Miss record for receiving touchdowns. He gets 3 of them in less than 4 minutes, and then another later on. 4 receiving touchdowns in the debut for Trey Harris. Just a huge day there for the Ole Miss passing game, over 500 yards, 3 quarterbacks playing, all that good stuff going on there. The postgame show brought to you by Dead Soxy every week. The Rebels tried to run up that sock deal for you. Go to deadsoxy.com from now until kickoff for Tulane. So 2:30 on Saturday, almost a full week. You get an opportunity, 40% off. 40% off your socks, your purchases there at Dead Soxy. Just a great deal. Again, it was a margin of victory sale, but they capped it at 40. The Rebels win by 66, 40% off with Dead Soxy. So seriously, take advantage of that. The good people at Dead Soxy are hosting or supporting us, presenting this podcast, this post-game show for the second straight year. So get some great socks. I've got some on right now. I wore them to the game today. They don't slip. They stay up. They stay over your calves. The no-shows are great for golf, just walking around, doing whatever you are out and about. Awesome stuff there from Dead Soxy. This will be in podcast form as well immediately following the post-game show. As soon as it's live, we'll put it in podcast form. Podcast version also presented by Twisted Tea. We'll get to Twisted Tea here in a little bit as well. So all that coming up today and more. Again, we'll go to Jeffrey here in a minute, just letting everybody kind of get in, letting it pick up a little bit. Jackson Dart was terrific. We'll look at stats here in a bit, but hits his first 11, goes 18 for 24, 300, I think 34 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yes, Dead Soxy code, thanks Ginger, is Rebel Grove. That would be a great help. Rebel Grove is the Dead Soxy discount code there. So Rebel Grove, one word, all the way across, Rebel Grove, and you'll get 40% off there with Dead Soxy. Thanks for the assist. That's a huge deal. Great for them in a number of ways. Great for you all the way around on that. Yeah, Dion shocking the world. We'll talk some football there. I got to find something on the TV right now. What's the best game on? It's 4:40 p.m. as we're doing this. What's the best live game we got going on as I go to Jeffrey here in a second. But that's the setup here. Again, I'll be your tour guide for the next little bit as we get some good guests, talk some football here with you. Again, Ole Miss 73, Mercer 7. A ton done in the passing game. Ole Miss really throwing the ball the entire game, getting a look at the quarterbacks. Tough news out of the tight end position if Hudson Wolf's injury is lingering on. You know, it was probably the best moment of the day, him getting his first catch. He's worked so hard to get back. He's had the back issues. He gets the 18-yard grab, immediately comes off, goes to the sidelines, looked like a shoulder situation, and went to the training room, never returned. Indications, we don't have anything official, but on the Ole Miss radio broadcast, John Darnell saying it did not look good there coming off the field for Hudson Wolf. So just a little sick about that right now. Tight end position with Prescorn out for probably a couple more weeks at least is a big deal there as well. So we'll monitor that. We'll keep contact to that as we kind of move forward there. Let me try to get Jeffrey on the call now. Give me 1 second, and we'll get to that here on the show.
Are we doing video or not?
No, we are not on video, and you're live. Just heads up on that.
All right.
How you doing, bud?
I am well. How are we all feeling out there?
I think think they're feeling pretty good. Pretty good offensive day for the Rebels. I was just saying right before you came on, I don't know if you were there or not. Actually, you might be in the screen, and I don't know it. If so, no, I don't guess you are. Okay. I could probably put you there, but I'm a little worried about what it's going to look like if I hit the button, so I think we're just going to avoid that, if all good with you.
I'll kill that. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Jeffrey joining us now. How was the first Saturday with our first football official full Saturday with the kids so far?
So far, the biggest problem that we had today was my DirecTV genie, completely crapped out on me, basically at 11:05. So we had to deal with a panic for about a quarter. And then after that, it's been pretty solid. Aaliyah got, for those out there that are curious, whether or not I hate Ole Miss, I'm letting my daughter wear an Ole Miss onesie. So there you go. Overall, it was the same. I feel like it was the same as always. My wife had a kid in her arms more than I did.
So we hit several. Oh, you got a pop there. What was that? We got almost like the McCready Siskey thing. We got the pop going on.
That was a nooner.
Okay, gotcha. What flavor? What are we doing?
I got peach here.
I don't hate peach. That one's fine.
I don't hate peach. Peach, pineapple. I'll tell you what I do not like. I do not like the high noon tequilas.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Nope,
on those.
not for me. Not for me.
Quarterbacks. Jackson Dart gets the start. We all expected that. It happened as expected. Jackson Dart, we were told by sources, was told several weeks ago that he was going to start. That came to fruition. He plays into the third quarter, about midway through the third quarter. Again, hits his first 11. I know it was Mercer. I get that the defensive backs are not exactly SEC quality. I thought he was really good, though. I thought the accuracy was good. I thought he made good decisions. I thought he really drove the football into lanes. I mean, considering the opponent and everything else, that was pretty much an A+ from Dart today, I thought, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually thought it was really weird that Lane was, trying to play it. I don't know, is he trying to keep everybody happy? I don't know. I thought that was super weird.
Yes, he's definitely trying to keep everybody happy. He's got multiple quarterbacks he wants to play to whatever degree. There's 100% for that. Yeah. That was, and I think it was a deal. I'm not even sure he told Sanders. I think he might have just told Dart.
So, first off, I think that's weird. But I could not agree more. I think this is Jackson Dart's team, and I think it's a mistake to try and do this dance that Kiffin does. I think it's very weird. I thought, didn't you feel like he was quicker on decisions today?
Yeah, I thought he operated. He looked comfortable. I mean, it's one game. It's all those sample sizes. I'm going to kind of do that few good men thing. I'm going to make that caveat once so we don't say it every time. But no, everything about what he did today was more comfortable than last year for the entirety of his performance today. He was moving better. He was faster with decisions. He went to the reads. He found a couple secondary reads in a much more timely fashion, kind of the way you would draw it up from a script standpoint. There was a ton there, and then when he actually delivered the football, I mean, he had pretty wide open lanes, but he hit pretty much everybody on target except for that one little two-throw deal, I guess, right there at the end of the first half.
Yeah, that one at the end of the south end zone that was right, kind of on the near side sideline, that one.
Yeah, correct, yes.
Yeah, someone either fell down, he threw I don't know, that was a weird play. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes Kiffin can be like a kid playing a video game. I feel like he totally forgot that Matt was very up and down his first year. And it's almost like he just remembered Matt's junior year. And I actually think Dart was pretty solid last year. I thought he was tough. I thought he played pretty well, and I think he's poised to have a really good year this year.
What's even beyond that? I mean, what's improvement wise? I mean, what is Dart? What's the thing that you need to see next week versus Tulane as they get into conference play, that kind of thing, to see where things are at?
I mean, if he's still pulling the trigger as quick as he did today, today, it's so tough to sit there and take too much away from today because, the quality of opponent. Like you looked at Mercer on the field, and didn't you just think like, oh my God, these guys do not belong? Like that was my first instinct. Was these guys physically have no business being on the same field, and so you don't know what to make of it. But next week, if he's pulling the trigger and making the decisions as quickly as he did today, then I feel really good.
Yeah,
everything today just felt like, I know you reported that the what did they call the scrimmage last week? Whatever their
mock game. Yeah.
It seems to me if the reports are accurate, like if they were telling you the truth, did that feel like a continuation of the mock game from last week?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think all the way. I mean, like I said, it was one of those deals where when you get a guy into the next year, that second year, and you always talk about, hey, what does that need to look like? Even though it was what it was, that was exactly what it looked like to me.
Correct. Like. Didn't it just feel? It felt smooth when he was out there. I mean, their first how many? Let's pull their drive chart up. TD, fumble, not his fault, because that was probably going to be a TD as well. I mean, field goal, TD. He scored on every drive with the exception of the one where Bentley fumbled, and they were going to score there too.
That's right. Yeah. Small sample size, but Sanders in general.
He looked like Spencer Sanders to me.
Okay. What does that mean?
He's a gunslinger. He'll throw it down. He is not afraid to throw it downfield. But there's a reason why he has, 40 interceptions in his career. But, it's a nice luxury to have. But to me, like, this is dumb. Like, Spencer Sanders should only play if Jackson gets hurt.
So we get the ability to have that speculation, and that's where I was going. So you did a pretty good segue there for me. Do you think they both play next week against Tulane, or if it's a close game, this is simply just Jackson Dart's team?
There could be like a package for Sanders, but I don't know, like, what would it be, like a goal line package? I mean, it's not like Spencer has really that different of a skill set than Jackson. He's just a little bigger. So you know what I mean? Like it seems to me like Jackson Dart won the job because I don't feel like Sanders came in today until, Dart's
it was over.
Done. Yeah.
But and it's back to your point. I mean, I really don't want to belabor it because we're in the season now. It is what it is. It doesn't even necessarily matter. But I agree with you. I think Jackson Dart won it. I think it's his team. I think that's what everything we've seen has been that situation. But that still remains, what in the world has this been all week? Because if that's the case, everybody's known this really, even if he wasn't told directly, even including Spencer Sanders.
So, to me, it's either one of two things, and I'm willing to, if someone else has another suggestion of an alternative theory, by all means. It's either, number one, Lane just trolling, and Lane's a troll. Like, we know that. Or it's, I'm very worried about upsetting somebody's feelings. Like, maybe promises were made to Spencer. But, I don't know. I didn't really get that sense on the sideline. Spencer kind of seemed into it on the sideline. Like, he was happy for his guy. Like, I don't know. That would surprise me more than anything. But, like, to me, it's either one of those two things, right?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's why I'm legitimately asking. Is it just doesn't make a lot of sense when you see how it played out today and then move it forward. I don't know what that purpose was. Again, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but it kind of baffled me as I watched it.
I think the simple answer is Lane was trolling, because I think Lane has been proven to be a troll at this point. The only other thing I can really think of is that, Lane brought Spencer Sanders and Walker Howard in for a reason. And I think that reason was, at best, to push Jackson Dart. But I personally believe that it was to run off Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart rose to the occasion. And to me, that's another reason why he'd be my guy. Like, the fact that you push him like that, and then all of a sudden, not only does he rise to the occasion, I think he's exceeded expectations. I mean, that's really the only other thing I can think of.
Well, and it's one of those deals where it's not even necessarily run him off directly like that. It's just you get the best, whatever that is. You know what I mean? Like if he comes up, great. If not, great.
Yeah, it's the maybe try to give yourself the best opportunity, because if I am quote unquote trying to run him off and I don't, and he becomes the guy, well then inadvertently I've gotten the guy.
Right. Huge day. He gets 4 touchdowns. A secondary is what it is for Mercer. How much are we reading into Trey Harris today?
I don't think we can really read anything, right? Like, he just physically. I mean, that was the thing to me about Mercer. That defense was just so overmatched. You'd rather him have that kind of day than not. But I just don't think that you can. I don't think that you can say because he did that today that he's all of a sudden going to be, one of the top wide receivers in the SEC. I'm not ruling it out, but I don't. I think the thing to remember about today is, hey, enjoy the win. It was fun. It was great. You did nothing of concern.
Sure.
But I also would avoid thinking that this means all of a sudden Ole Miss is going to have the best offense in the league.
It's the situation where you could have. We've seen this before, and you easily could have done things that would have went cold water, cold water, cold water. There's a problem. This is not going to go well. This is an issue, and you didn't do any of those. So even if you get a bunch of incompletes are not a bad thing after the FCS game. Nope. You just move on from there and play football.
Yeah, to me, like, that's the thing is, like, sometimes people will interpret it like, oh, well, you're like saying they can't be good. It's like, no. I'm completely open to the possibility that this could be one of the best offenses in the league. But I just don't think you can say because they did that against Mercer, like all of a sudden we should be rewriting the Ole Miss record books because of what we're going to see the next 11 games.
On that topic, on that side, I do think the defense has some incompletes. Statistically, they played incredibly well after that first play. Pete Deweese had shown on Pete's Pigskin preview early in the week that Mercer's all about the eye candy and doing a lot of misdirection and things to get you off your mark. First play, definitely so.
The first play.
Yeah, 75 yards for the quarterback, PV for a touchdown there on the first play. But the rest of the first half, Mercer only had they had -2 rushing yards because of a lot of big plays behind the line of scrimmage for Ole Miss. Overall, Ole Miss just dominated this game statistically. But from an eyesight standpoint, there were some plays for Mercer that they either dropped or they didn't hit or they did some execution things that were open. I thought they got some push at times up front with their offensive line. I do think, for the most part, it was an incomplete for the Ole Miss defense.
Yeah, I agree with you because one of my all-time favorite things to watch in football, my two favorite reactions are when a quarterback like PV goes 80 yards and you can see like the last 20 yards he's having to look around because he can't believe like he's going to score. Like when he's at like, am I really this open? Like, is this going to happen? And then I love when a DB, like a ball's just thrown out of bounds and the DB gives the incomplete, like he knocked it away. Those are my two favorite football reactions. I think if I were trying to be ultra critical and you were tasking me with saying, nitpick everything you saw today, the one thing that concerned me a little bit was I did not think the defense looked particularly fast. But I'm also open to the idea of, we've talked about this, a bunch of times. Defense, more than anything, oftentimes is like effort and assignment. And I feel like it's pretty hard to get up for the Mercer game. So I don't even know if that's like a fair criticism, but I did not feel like athletically that defense popped off the page.
I'm going to get, again, Pete's going to follow you up. He's going to talk some schematics with us here coming up on the show in a few minutes. But just on that note, was it kind of what you would just expect from a Pete Golding defense? I mean, it looked like you would think.
Yeah, and also I think let's also give some credit because clearly Mercer had schemed up that very first play and schemed it up quite nicely. And then really, other than that, like, I don't ever remember them getting gashed. Did they?
No, I don't remember anything at all. From a busted play standpoint, from a standpoint of, making a bunch of assignment errors, no, they really cleaned that up. I thought it was good. I thought they were really good in that way. They just got beat physically a little bit. And that's, however you want to phrase that.
Yeah. So after that, Mercer had 3 chunk plays, one of which came with 3:21 left in the game and 3:09 in the third. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I felt like in general, after that first play, they looked like you'd want them to look. Like, I never felt like anyone was really out of position. I did not feel like there were significant busts. Like, even on plays that Mercer didn't execute, I still didn't feel like, oh my God, they missed a touchdown play. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, Ole Miss was so out of position that they got lucky. Do I think that's going to be a top half of the league defense? No, but I do think that they're better than last year.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I mean, because like I said, I had a stat a couple weeks ago in something I wrote that they were one of the worst teams in the country at giving up rushes over 10 yards. If you can just sort of break that away and just stop that play, they become and I mean this in a good way, an average SEC defense.
No, I think if they're an average SEC defense, I think they're a better team this year.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I really felt like last year – the dam really, really broke in the second half of the year. And if you needed to get a stop, you weren't going to get one. Touchdown, Auburn! Oh, I got to tell you
because you're laying this, aren't you?
The Hugh emotional hedge all year is going to be the play.
So you're going to enjoy money or enjoy Hugh Freeze losing football games?
Every single week.
Yeah. Line doesn't matter. Matchup doesn't matter. We're just getting one of the two.
Correct. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to play this out.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess the other question is, do you think that have they upgraded at receiver? Because that is to me, a big question. If this offense is going to be really good, it is proven that you've got to have elite receivers. And I don't know, man. Like, that's a real question for me.
I mean, I just pulled it up here. Receiving today, I mean, Harris is obviously the front runner, 6'1", 133 and 4. So either he is or isn't. We'll see as time goes on what that looks like and where that moves from there. Jordan Watkins goes 6 catches for 111. We know what Jordan is. He's a very capable SEC wide receiver, but he's not a 1A guy, or you don't need him to be a 1A guy for sure.
Well, to me, Watkins has proven that he is like the definition of like replacement level receiver. Like he is deserving of being on the field. But, if you ever have to make him your number one, then you're in trouble.
Kyron Heath actually had a pretty good day at tight end. Although it wasn't really tight end. He was slotted out a good bit. It was out wide for the most part with Heath. But 3 for 48. Trigg in the second half suits up, goes 3 for 44. I was asked this. Again, this is 5 o'clock on Saturday, so if something comes out, I don't know it. I have no idea if him dressing for the second half is because he was suspended for the first half or if he was suspended for the entire game, but they only had one healthy tight end. No idea. I don't know which way that is moving. Aiden Williams gets his first couple catches, 2 for 47. Also had a penalty that brought back a pretty long Ulysses Bentley run during the game. Judkins a couple catches. This is, I get, whatever, but it is noteworthy they got the running backs involved in the passing game. They said they're going to do that, and they did do that a little bit. Dayton Wade with a catch, Braylon Brown with a catch, some other guys with a catch as well. But this feels like, from a 1A standpoint, it's Trey Harris, or they just have a lot of capable, deep wide receivers. But if you're doing that, you need really 4 or 5. You need guys who definitely can run correct routes and give you a lot of options in the passing game.
I wish Ole Miss had, if Ole Miss and Tennessee run similar offenses, I wish Ole Miss had the one guy that's just so freaking fast that all he does is run the go route. Like, I wish they had that element, but I just still don't see that. The Jalen Hyatt, and then, like, today, I can't remember, whoever number 9 is for Tennessee, like, you can tell 9's the new Jalen Hyatt. He's the guy that's just going to run really fast down the field.
And Ole Miss is not, that human.
I don't think they have that.
Right.
I've not seen that guy. I mean, maybe he's on the roster, but I haven't seen him.
Well, yeah, even if they have him, they haven't done that yet.
Hang on. How many plays were there today? How many plays did I watch? I watched 74 plays from Ole Miss and 68 from Mercer.
Yeah. Someone asked on the stream, just repeating that, Caden Prieskorn, surgery on Thursday on his foot. The expectation is 3 weeks. That would have him missing the Mercer, Georgia Tech, and Tulane games, and would be back for Alabama if that's on schedule. So that's why they are in the situation they are at tight end at the moment.
So what's the deal with Wolf? Because he got some action and
he got hurt.
I don't know. He looked the part.
He looks like he may. I hate to put an adjective on it, but he had what appeared to be a shoulder injury on that catch. So a guy who has been coming back from a back injury for 2 years, and looks like he hurt a shoulder.
That guy's career is just snake bit.
Yeah, it was. I was really happy for him. I saw it. I kind of went immediately to Twitter and was like, "Yeah, this is really, really cool." And then I guess it was Neil that leaned over.
Too.
He looks the part. He looks good. And about that time, Brett Norsworthy walked over and told me and Neil that it looked like he had injured his shoulder.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so that's where that was sitting. I'm gonna.
I feel bad for him.
Before I go to Pete, Jeffrey, Colorado, TCU, Prime. Are we doing a week 1 overreaction because TCU is awful at defense, or are we really, really resetting our expectations here?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. Number one, I think it's a reminder that don't forget Chandler Morris won the job last year and then got hurt in the Colorado game. And for those that watched that season opener last year, when Morris got hurt and then Duggan came in, their offense immediately got better. It's a reminder that, Chandler Morris is really not a good quarterback. And then secondly, again, people can roll their eyes and say, I'm just a hater or whatnot. Deion is a reminder that, guys, just because these people make a ton of money and we care about this sport, don't make the mistake of thinking that, it's really hard to do. This is not, advanced molecular engineering. It's football. Get some players, get some good coaches, and let them go to work. And I think the other thing to remember, I don't know if he's an NFL quarterback, but when it comes to being a good, solid college quarterback, Shedor's a good quarterback. He's accurate with the ball. He's athletic enough to extend plays. And he's got good instincts. I just think far too often, because we think it's a really, really hard job. All these guys are freaking PE coaches if they're not college football coaches. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, I just don't understand why we act like – why do you think that we – that's a interesting, societal question. Why do you think that we want to believe that this is somehow, alchemy?
Because we care about it so much. You want to, it's your leader. It's what people put a lot of their time and their discretionary money into them and all that stuff. You want it to be hey, this is my guy and this is above me. This is something that I don't, plus I think, and it's not even necessarily at coaches, just in general, there's enough lingo and lexicon stuff that makes you not think you can understand it. You know what I mean?
Right, but that's by design. They don't want, I think that's the other thing. I think the other thing that's interesting to me about Deion is there is a significant amount of Deion hate, and I think it largely comes it largely comes from the coaching community because, like, I think deep down they know, like, hey, you can make a lot of money and you really don't have to be that impressive of a person if you just get the right gig. And Dion throws all that, you know what I mean? Like, Dion doesn't do it by the book and doesn't do it their way. And so I think that lends itself to a lot of hate and a lot of shade. I just would remind you that Ed Orgeron probably is below average. If you gave him an IQ test, significantly below average, and he was the head coach of arguably the greatest team that's ever been assembled. So let's maybe keep that in perspective.
Again, I'm going to attribute this to the right place or to whatever, but it's 5 o'clock. We're seeing in the stream somebody saying they've talked to family members at Hudson Wolf in surgery for a collarbone injury. Do not know that to be true outside of that, but that is just what I am seeing in the stream as we're talking. So,
God, that sucks.
It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, to the point of affecting my mood. Last thing with that though, I mean, Colorado. I mean, are we going like, hey, wow, no, it's just a matter of what number of wins from a bowl eligibility? I mean, what's the deal now?
I mean, wouldn't the perfect scenario would be then they lose to Nebraska next week, right?
Well, sure. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for, just for the chaos.
With that said, like, I don't know, that to me looked like a team that's going to be functional in the Pac-12. Let's see what their schedule is.
Juan Jeffrey's looking that up. Auburn beating UMass 52-7 right now, going into the fourth quarter. So a good chance that Hugh covers this first game, and that UMass's quarterback situation was more about North Carolina State than it was
New Mexico
UMass.
State.
Sorry, yes, exactly, yes.
All right, so against Nebraska, there will be a massive overreaction. They'll be favored. They'll be favored against Colorado State. At Oregon, they'll be a dog. USC at home, they'll be a dog. At Arizona State, who struggled to beat Southern Utah, they'll be favored. Stanford, UCLA, they'll be a dog. Oregon State, they'll probably be a dog. Arizona, at Washington State, at Utah. Yeah, they got the outside shot of a bowl because they'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they can win 5 games, and then they're going to need to sneak up on somebody to upset. You know, they're going to have to like win. You got to beat either like UCLA on the road, Oregon State at home, or at Wazoo. Like games that you need to flip to be a bowl team.
Okay, so you're not going some crazy 8-win overreaction. Okay.
Oh no. But I mean, you know what? Their win total was like 2.5, dude.
Yeah. No, they're already a third away to the cash.
Also, all right, I've saved it to the end. You ready for a real hot take?
I am.
Did you get a look at Stanford last night?
Not a single snap, so...
that's a good point. It didn't kick off till 10, so you were asleep.
No.
You were asleep hours before it even kicked off. David Shaw's the most overrated head coach of the last decade.
I think I'm with you on this, actually.
I've been here forever. That guy took advantage.
Okay. You're back now. We're good. Can I give a second, see if people are back here on the show? Can you guys can you hear me? Give me some heads up. Severe technical difficulty, but if we got that back that fast, I will be really excited. So to kind of see what's going on. 1 second. Back. Okay, Jeff. That was a crazy save. If we got that back that fast, that was incredible. I had to restart my entire computer. I was getting something that I've never seen before on my screen. So if we pull that back that fast, I'm a really happy camper, and I'm applauding myself for not losing my my mind currently on that. So give me one second to kind of get my bearings, to get everything back real quick, and then we'll go to Pete. But I want to get this stream back. I want to make sure everybody is back with us. Give me 1 second. We're going to go to Pete Deweese. We're going to talk some analytics here in just a second. Talk some schematics as well. So give me 1 minute. And it fixed the camera too. So maybe we really are living kind of golden right now. Let's see. 1 second. No, I restarted the entire computer, Addison. Everything. I had to completely do the hold down the power button thing because it wouldn't even, it would not even turn off or anything at that point. So yeah, that was incredibly fortunate. And the way I have it seen here, am I right on this for everybody? It's the same link, right? We didn't start a new stream or anything. It's still coming on the same link. Can you guys verify that as I'm calling Pete? That's true. It never happens on Jace. He does much better with that. But hey, you know what? It is what it is. We're making this thing work. All right, let's call Pete now. Yeah, I'm showing. You're right, G. I am showing all the patients right now. That was. I had a minute, and I kind of did the channeling Neil thing from when he was not freaking out the other day, because it was one of those deals where I went, this could go really, really, really poorly, and I had to just kind of keep the composure right now. So we're doing all right. All right, we're gonna call Pete. Give me 1 second. Yeah, chat never changed or anything. That's incredible. I apologize to Jeffrey for that, because I could tell something was going weird, and he was still talking, and it just kind of hung up. So I hate that happened, but it is what it is. He'll forgive me, and we'll go back to him if we need to at some point.
Hello.
Pete, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing lovely. Thanks for giving us a little time today. I just had a little bit. I don't know if you were paying attention. I had a computer malfunction right there in the middle of the show, and my heart rate's about 185 right now. But otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. So it's.
I chimed in right as you were getting back on, so
okay.
Glad you were able to get it back up and running.
So I don't even really know what to ask you to start this thing off here, but we'll do this. We'll start it. I know what I want to say is you did your pigskin preview. First play of the game, you look like the biggest genius in the football world as Mercer ran some of the things you were talking about and goes 75 yards for a touchdown. Did they present the challenges on offense that you did expect today?
And honestly, I kind of fired myself by the middle of the first quarter because I didn't get to watch them much last week, hardly at all. I focused on what they had done in the past, things that I had seen from studying them a little bit over the summer. And they came out really much more pro-style and got away from a lot of the wing tee principles that they've been heavily relying on the past couple of years. So the first play, they come out and they just run power read. I mean, Lord, Ole Miss, between power read and counter read, I mean, that's a big part of what Ole Miss does on offense. So certainly something the defense has seen before. Now, from that presentation, was it something they were expecting from that formation, that motion combination, all of that? I don't have an answer for. But I was a little bit surprised, like I said, that Mercer played a little bit more of a spread, almost pro-style at times, West Coast and some of the quick game that they were trying to throw, and not really in much of the wing tee element at all. And so I don't know what Pete Golding and staff spent the week preparing for. I don't know what the players spent the week preparing for, but, I would think that there were certainly some adjustments to be made. And there were some halftime adjustments for sure. But even early in the game, I'm curious to know how much of the game plan changed very quickly.
So I guess we'll start defensively for Ole Miss. We're just kind of quick thoughts there overall for what you saw personnel and team-wise for the Rebels.
Defensively, I mean, there's no point in crowning anybody after a victory over Mercer. But the big thing to me was I thought that Ole Miss leveraged the football better than I've seen them do consistently throughout the course of a game in a while. Safeties were fitting the box when they needed to fit the box. And there were some times and some run fits that there's no doubt that they're going to want to have back. But that was the biggest thing to me. Early on, they were in the first half. They were getting some easy throws in the flat, and they were finding some leverage on some screens to the running back, just little swing passes where they were blocking for him on the perimeter. But I thought Ole Miss adjusted. But the big thing to me, like I said, was they played fast up front for most of the time, and I thought that they leveraged the football, and they weren't just grossly misfitting things consistently.
For the idiots in the stream that probably would include me as well, when you say leveraging the football, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, so, based on how your scheme, and this is fairly simplistic, and I'd actually love to hear Siski's take on a lot of this, just knowing that he's been under that defensive umbrella a little bit. But typically defensively, you're either going to set an edge, turn it back to your help, or you are going to take the inside gap, force the ball to spill off the table, string it to the sidelines, and let the secondary come fit late, right? In the high school game, you get teams that live in one or the other. In the college games, you have to be able to play both. And so when you talk about leveraging the football, it is if they're going to run a play where they're going to, try to block down and kick guys out, is how are you going to defend it? Are you going to get underneath it, force it to spill out, and let your safeties come fill? Or are you going to turn it back and let your backside players come and fit it from the backside? And there weren't many times in the game, I thought, where it was just inconsistent. There weren't points where the safety fit outside, but the linebacker fit outside, which are some things that we've seen in the past. And when you're playing that three high look that Ole Miss played last year with three safeties on the field, how you fit things and how you leverage things with your box and the number of gaps that the offense presents and how you match those gaps is very important. Being a little bit more traditional now, almost they just look sound up front.
Mm-hmm. How much of that is you look for? I mean, when you go into next week, I guess we'll preview what you'll talk about for Tulane on Thursday a little bit, is how much of that is things that you just need to do in your own schemes and whatever, and how much of that is opponent dependent that they can force you out of doing those things as soundly? I mean, is that about you or them?
Well, if you get a team that's going to play 4 wide or 5 wide the whole game, it's going to change how you fit things. You have to leverage things a little bit differently, right? If a team's going to put 3 or 4 receivers to one side, like for instance, you take Tennessee, okay? When you watch Tennessee play, whether they're in a 2-by-2 formation or a 3-by-1 formation, they are going to push those receivers out as far as they can. And you're going to have to make a decision. Am I going to play man coverage and leave my safeties to fit the run? Or am I going to have to widen my safety, stay over the top because we know they want to take shots and be reliant on my box players, my D-line, my linebackers to control the run game. So opponents can certainly play a factor in that because you're going to defend that group differently than you're going to defend in Alabama or in Arkansas that's going to play with 1, if not 2 tight ends for a lot of their snaps. But you're also going to have to be prepared when they suddenly jump into a 4-wide presentation and there's no longer a tight end.
From a stat standpoint, Xavier Harris had a big day up front. Perkins ended up with a good bit of tackles. Cedric Johnson had a big day. I don't even necessarily know how you watch a game. If you're watching units or ball or players or what, but did you notice Perkins at any point today?
Yeah, he popped. He certainly was around the football a lot, and made his speed is evident. The kid can run. He's physical at the point of attack. It was a great way for him to get his feet wet. Next week will be a little bit of a tale, as far as how he plays against a little bit better competition. But he wasn't a kid that got thrown out there and disappeared. Number 4 was around the ball a lot, and that's that's what you want to see out of a young player in that situation. If he disappears and gets swallowed up and misfits things, then there's a little concern, even if it's the first game, you know. But he was constantly around the football, and that's always a positive sign.
Huge day for the quarterback position. They throw for 500 and something all three together. Jackson Dart hits his first 11 passes. Quarterback play, Pete, what'd you see?
You know, I thought the biggest thing with Dart is I don't know whether it's about him being comfortable or it's about them giving him more freedom. I think it's a little bit of both if I were to put money on the table. But out the jump, you know, I mean, a lot of those early completions were RPOs. They weren't drop back passing plays, and it was him seeing one-on-one coverage, him trusting his guys, and giving them a ball that they could go make a play on. And they made some plays for him. But the biggest thing to me, you know, one, honestly, I thought pass protection was pretty good. When they got to him, or when they got to him late on some games, or when they brought 6 and Ole Miss is protecting with 5. But I thought you saw him get through his progression and get to guys later in the play scheme more so today. And again, that should happen against Mercer, but it wasn't necessarily happening last year. Mm-hmm. And so to see him get from the front side all the way to the back side of a concept, there were several times today, and I know without a visual it's hard, but you know, one of the things that Ole Miss, one of the passing concepts that they rely heavily on is what's known as cross or Y cross. And so you're going to put some type of a two-man concept to the front side of the formation, and the quarterback has access to that route combination if he has matchup or a numbers advantage. But from the backside, you're bringing typically the inside receiver that's running a deep cross, and the backside receiver, based on how you call or tag it or some teams read it, the outside receiver on the backside is either going to run a curl or a post. He got back to that curl several times today, and he got there relatively quickly, right? It shows an understanding of what the play, how the play is designed. It shows an understanding of what he was seeing from a coverage standpoint, and he was getting himself back to the end of his progression, getting balls out in time and finding windows. And so that's certainly some growth and maturity for him, I think. You know, in the run game, they used him without overdoing it. You know, I don't think they wanted to put too much on him early, but they certainly gave him the opportunity to run. He showed last year he can be effective in that. So overall, I mean, I thought that Dart, there weren't a ton of misses. You know, I mean, I think 5 incompletions, and I think one might have been a drop on a ball that was a little high, and one clearly looked like a busted route because he was looking at the sidelines, giving a hand gesture. He was fully expecting the receiver to do something different. So he certainly had a clean game. It's what you want to see if you're gonna feel good about where they go moving forward. You needed to see that type of performance from him, I think.
I know the talent is what it is, but can Mercer at least schematically show things that he will see in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, you know, football's football,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
you said, the talent's going to be different, but Mercer's not inventing coverages that nobody else is going to run. And then, you know, at the same time, theirs is going to look, you know, they can run the same cover 4 that everybody else is going to run, and it's just going to look different at times. The big thing to me that was interesting today, and I don't want to make this sound like a bad thing, but you look at some of the completions early on, in particular the fade balls that he threw as RPOs. There wasn't necessarily a ton of separation by the receivers, but there were great adjustments on great balls. And that'll play, you know, great ball and a great adjustment will beat great coverage a lot of times because the offense has the ability to get the yellow flag much more often than the defense does. So I wouldn't call that a concern. I was not necessarily – I was kind of hoping you'd see the receivers pull away at some point when they got those man-on-man situations. But as long as they're connecting on those plays, you know, then you're still being efficient and you're creating explosives, and that's what you want to do.
Continue on that for a second. With the play game now, where do you see this wide receiver group for Ole Miss?
You know, honestly, I felt like they were, you know, you've seen some improvement in some of the guys that have coming back, right? I mean, you look and some of the guys that played last year look like they're ready to try and take that next step. Obviously, you get a gold mine with the kid coming in from Tech and the way that he starts his Ole Miss career. It gives you that presence to replace whether it's a Heath or a Mingo. The fact that you saw 3 tight ends get involved today in the passing game, all making athletic plays, and that's without the guy that's your starter. I think that's a positive sign because as much as we want to talk about Ole Miss wide receiver play, tight end play factors in the quality of the Ole Miss receiver play. Opposite, to the other side, opposite of the La Tech kid, and I'm still trying to figure out all the names of this roster. Thank you. Opposite of Harris, on the outside, who's going to really emerge as the guy over there? That's going to be key. But ultimately, I thought you saw a lot of guys play today that were effective. Nobody looked lost. Nobody looked out of place, and there were certainly some guys that made some plays when they had the opportunity to.
How do we grade Harris today, like considering the competition versus the expectation moving forward?
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't, it'd be hard to say you expect the same thing to happen at any point again the rest of the year.
Sure.
but from the standpoint, right, he found windows in zone. He caught the ball and made plays with the ball in his hand when he caught it in zone.
Okay.
He got matched up in man-to-man coverage, and he won battles when the ball was there for him to win the battle. So from that standpoint, I mean, the production that he had coming into the season. And the biggest thing to me is it certainly seemed like he and Dart are on the same page, right? And that's such a big thing. And so a lot of that grade, there's so much upside there because those two seem to have a good connection. And he certainly, I mean, he adjusts to the ball in the air. He's a big physical presence. He's good with the ball in his hands after the catch. So he should be primed for a big year if they can keep teams from bracketing him. And that, again, that comes back to how good are they, how good's the 11 going to be, how good are the tight ends going to be, and how much can they do some other things to prevent teams from bracketing Harris because he's going to get a lot of attention.
You led me there. Hudson Wolf looks like he is out for at least a little while after getting that catch and then getting injured. We know Priestcorn's out, at least from an expectation standpoint, a couple more weeks. The tight end spot today did a lot of kind of putting them out in the slot. They had them far out from the line of scrimmage. You had Heath, you had Trigg in the second half. What's the expectation there? Because you've got two guys that haven't played a ton of football, and this is the only 2 tight ends you have right now.
I think the thing is, and I think to some degree, even going back to when Lane first got to campus and he had Yeboah, who was certainly an athletic pass-catching tight end, he was never a real physical presence in the run game. He was enough, right? And even last year, it's that position has not been a position that has been on the field to maul people for Ole Miss. They have been there to create extra gaps, to occupy bodies, and to do enough in the passing game. And the advantage, I think, the one thing I think you have with the two that seem to be healthy going into next week is they both are athletic. They can both slip out, play in the slot, give you a presence as a pass catcher there. But I don't think either one, they're not going to turn down opportunities in the run game. But I think one thing that Kiffin has shown to do a good job of since he's been at Ole Miss is find ways to create runs. And there were so long last year where they played essentially without a tight end, right? And they're using Mingo as a tight end, and they're finding ways to be creative and let him still be a factor in the run game. So, another one goes down, I think there's some concern. I think right now they're going to play to the strength of those two as much as they can. And I think that's one of the things about today too is teams are going to play to stop Judkins. I mean, they are. Between Dart's legs and the things that Four has shown the ability to do, Ole Miss is going to have to be able to operate on the outside in the RPO world, and they showed the ability to do that today. And the flip side of that is that those tight ends can also be a part of that because they are athletic and they can do things out of the backfield or off the line of scrimmage or in the slot. is receivers, and I would expect Ole Miss to try to take advantage of that as much as they can.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ole Miss is even late they were still throwing the football a pretty good bit. Their run pass mix today, 33 rushes, 41 passes for Ole Miss. Was that a sign of a lot of RPOs and the pass being the best option in that? I mean, did we already see a sneak peek of teams loading up to take away Judkins and force the throws?
I think there were certainly times where that was the case. I think this is also one where, quarterbacks, whether it was a numbers game or not, they looked out and they saw their guy in a favorable matchup, and they gave him the ball. At the same time, there were a few times where I thought, man, he could have handed that ball off and it had somewhere to go, but I never thought it was a bad decision at the same time. Right? Okay. There's times where they show an end zone cut, and especially when Ole Miss, they would get 4 wide receivers, no tight end, and Ole Miss would run a little gap scheme. They would pull the guard to insert on the linebacker, and he would have free space to just pull up and throw a hitch or throw something quick out there that was essentially guaranteed yards. And they would show a clip of it after the play, like show the replay from the end zone. And it's like, if he hands that ball off, there's somewhere to go. But from a quarterback standpoint, if a lot of times those routes on the outside are referred to as gift routes. If they are going to give you a gift, you're going to take it. And that's what the quarterbacks did a lot of today. So I think if you looked at the actual, somebody in the box or on the sideline is writing down every play that gets called, right? And if you were to look at it, the actual run to pass ratio was higher than it plays out on the stat sheet. But that is because of the RPO game and how many times quarterbacks felt comfortable pulling the trigger on the RPO today.
Overall, offense, defense, what grade do you give them each side?
Oh, I think both sides were, considering first game, I think both sides were really good. Ole Miss has not ever, even as effective as Ole Miss has been running the football in the past few years, they've never truly just mauled people up front. It's not the style of play that they have to play to be successful. They create gaps and they create numbers and they do so many different things so well with good running backs, because they've certainly had those since Kiffin has been there, that they create running lanes. And today, there were times where there was not necessarily a ton of push up front. But again, that's not the game that they're trying to play. This is not a give me a tight end and a fullback, and we're building a ton of double teams, and we're doing all these things. It's so much about you get on the body, you maintain the block, and we're going to create enough space for our back to hopefully go spit it and make a guy miss at the second level. So there were some times where maybe I'd like to say, God, I wish we'd moved the line of scrimmage a little bit more. But again, we saw the ball come out and end up being thrown on those calls so many different times, because I think the way the defense presented, the number of players in the box, the matchups were there on the outside. And I don't care what offensive line you have, if you're outnumbered in the box, you're never gonna watch it as a fan on television and go, oh man, we're killing them up front. Well, not when they have 2 extra guys in the box. It's never going to look like that. So it's hard to say that they weren't effective running the football today, because in all honesty, they were just that effective throwing the football. But I think that's one thing, is continuing to see how much can they really do. They were also incredibly simple in the run game today. They did not do very much, in my opinion. They're so good at all their little wrinkles and stuff, and they were very, very basic in what they did today, the entire offensive game plan. And so I think, it's hard to downgrade them with the stats that they put out and the points they put out, knowing that they were that simple. Defensively, honestly, after that first play, there were very few times in the game where I was disappointed. I think there were times where, it's okay, I can't tell how fast this defense is, where Mercer would get the ball on the edge. Number one for Mercer, I don't know what year that kid's in, but if he as quick as that kid looked, if he ends up in the portal, he'll end up somewhere. Mercer had a little bit of speed on the field, and it was hard to tell at times how fast is this Ole Miss defense, in particular the secondary. But I thought that just from a physical standpoint, I thought that the Ole Miss box, the D-line and linebackers, looked like an SEC defense when they took the field, and that has not always been the case the past few years.
Yeah. Last thing, and I'll give you your Saturday back. What's kind of the one thing that you want to see against Tulane next week? What's the thing that's going to stick in your mind as the week goes on?
I'm curious to see against better players how Ole Miss can win the one-on-one matchups defensively in particular. Early in the game, they were playing off. They were willing to give Mercer some easy throws underneath. In the second half, they came down, they tightened up, and they just said, you know what, we're going to make you beat us over the top, and Mercer wasn't able to do that. And so I'm curious to see against better competition at Tulane, what does that look like? Does he trust the secondary enough to push them forward and play tight? Is he going to keep them off a little bit because he feels like he wants to protect them? Curious to see what that looks like on the defensive side of the ball. And then offensively, I just want to see I want to see what they look like next week with presumably a full game plan and really trying to get into it. Because today I think the best thing the offense did was they spread it around to so many different people. And really built some depth and experience in guys and showed the both ability and willingness to spread it all over the field. And as long as they can continue to do that, not always hone in on Harris, not always hone in on Judkins and some of these things, then they're just going to make them a better team offensively.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Bud. I look forward to your pigskin preview heading into New Orleans and Tulane next week, and we'll talk to you then.
Thank you. Take care, Chase.
Pete Deweese, they're joining us for the MPW Digital Postgame Show. Always great stuff for him. He makes you smarter. He makes you a better watcher of the game of football there. So I really appreciate his time, something we just kind of threw together today to provide that for you. Again, the Pete's Pigskin Preview comes every week on our YouTube channel. It's in podcast form as well as he breaks down, and you would have gotten a really good read for Mercer and Ole Miss today if you did check that out. So if you didn't, starting next week, Tulane, better opponent, do that because you will watch the game. You will have more enjoyment from watching the game because you'll understand it better. So just heads up on that. We are going to call Neil McCready now. I think he's ready. So let's see if we can get Neil on the phone. He stayed for the whole game. I was in the stadium. I was there for some of it. Got here in time to do the post game show. So let's call Neil. See if we can get him on the horn now. Let's see.
What's up, Chase?
You are live. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, it's been a bit of a show, but it's going okay. We're hanging in. We are soldiering on. We're as Ginger said, we are showing all the patience, and we are to this point. So we got to you. We're all good. Oh, no problem at all.
Technical stuff, you mean?
Well, my camera froze up for about 20 minutes. I could turn them off, turn them on, do everything, and it still would not unfreeze. So my frozen face, like Mitch McConnell, was just sitting in the middle of the screen for like 20 minutes. And then after that, my laptop started giving me all these error messages, and my entire computer shut down in the middle of the show. I was able to keep my composure, restart my entire computer, and get it back going in time. We did not even lose the stream and lose the link. We were in the same link that we were in with me restarting my computer. Yeah, it was a minute. So we're all good. We lost a couple minutes of Jeffrey as we were talking about Dion and TCU, but otherwise it was all good. And I will say this as we get going. Actually, real quick before we do this, Neil will not mind. He's just hanging out. Is your column up, by the way, at Rebel Grove? Or are you
yes.
At that point?
Yeah, my column's up, and I've put up a fairly brief notebook.
Okay, notebook's there. I've got a rapid reaction, Neil's column, so rebelgrove.com. But before I get into the conversation with Neil, let me tell you real quick about Twisted Tea. Are you ready to elevate your college football game day experience? Check out Twisted Tea, your go-to game day beverage for college football fans. Twisted Tea is unlike any hard beverage you've had before. It's made with real brewed tea, packs a flavorful punch, 5% alcohol, no carbonation, delivering the perfect balance of taste and refreshment. that goes down smooth for every game day occasion. No need to settle for the usual. Twisted Tea turns up any occasion, especially when you're cheering for your favorite team, whether you're tailgating in the stadium parking lot or hosting friends at home. Twisted Tea is there to elevate your game day experience. It complements your love for college football and your passion for creating unforgettable moments. Let's toast to unforgettable game day experiences. Twisted Tea, the drink that fuels fun and celebrates your love for college football. Keep it twisted. I was saying that I don't know if it was the case even as recently as the last couple of weeks. We haven't really talked about it. You and I both kind of pulling for Dion today against the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, I went into the day. I mean, I think I was kind of cheering for them to lose, and then as the game went on, I kind of caught myself cheering for them to win, and I don't really know why that is. I think everybody being so against him, wanting him to fail so badly, has made me want him to succeed just almost out of spite.
It's fair. Why not? Hey, look, he's going to be interesting every time. He's going to win or lose a game and be interesting every time. Now, he goes into the press conference and starts doing the receipts thing, and I mean, you're just used to it, but it's like, okay, stop, chill out.
Yeah, and that makes me want to cheer. That makes me want to cheer against him.
Right, again, we're there again. So I know.
Yeah, we're just back and forth. But boy, Travis Hunter. I mean, I had that game on my computer, as you know, during the Ole Miss game, and they started long before Ole Miss did. But Travis Hunter's a beast. He's amazing. I mean, and Shedeur Sanders played really, really well. It was a fun game to watch. I mean, on a day when you're covering 73-7.
Yeah.
I mean, that game was compelling. It was fun.
Anything from Lane of note? I saw in the people in our stream saying that Hudson Wolf a collarbone injury for the tight end after making his first career catch.
Yeah, Wolf. You know, Lane will not talk about injuries or discipline. He said that the decision to play Michael Trigg in the second half was unrelated to Wolf's situation.
Okay.
I'll take him at his word. The interesting thing in the post game was obviously the first question was about Dart and the quarterback, and was Dart the quarterback moving forward, and he didn't go there. He went back to competition is good, and that both guys played really, really well. And he praised Sanders for staying focused because he didn't get in until mid third quarter, and said that they'd go back this week and compete and go from there. I mean, he is not naming a starting quarterback. I asked Jackson if that frustrated him, and he gave the "you can only control what you control" answer, and that he that Lane's the boss, and those weren't exactly his words, but basically he said Lane makes the calls here, and that he can only control what he can control, and that his goal is to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and that he wasn't surprised he's the starter. He thinks he's the starter. Things like that. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't get it, but I mean, whatever. I mean, we're at least going to do this for another week, apparently, So, and Lane's going to act frustrated when we ask about quarterback stuff, but he could make the quarterback thing go away by saying Jackson's the starting quarterback, until he's not. I think that would stop the questions until he wasn't. But that's not where we're going. But yeah, that was the big thing from post game. We talked to Trey Harris, obviously, who admitted that it happened so fast that he looked up and was like, wow, he couldn't believe how quick it happened. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. We had 3 touchdowns, but that was about it. I mean, I don't know about you. I don't know how much you truly can take positively or negatively from a game like this where it's such a mismatch. Lane was very pleased with his team, though. He thought they played with a lot of intensity and they executed very well on offense, obviously, and was very pleased with his team, other than a fumble and the giving up the 75-yard run on the first play.
I mean, you're just following Pete. Come on, I need all the takes. I need all the schematic things that Ole Miss did against Mercer that worked or didn't work. I mean, I'm just curious. Let's see how right you are compared to Pete. I'll run you through all the questions and see how it goes.
I will fail miserably compared to Pete.
Pete was very pleased with Ole Miss. I will tell you that, to kind of guide you through heading into Thursday. He thought offensively and defense they were close to ace. He thought they were very good on both sides of the ball.
Well, I mean, defensively, after that first run, I think they gave up 14 yards of rushing offense. I mean, they fit really well. They played a lot of guys. Look, Perkins is going to play a lot. It's obvious that he's an impact player. They did some different things with Cedric Johnson. I have a suspicion that they were pretty vanilla defensively. And then we talked about this in Pete's show on Thursday, is that against Mercer, they're going to do a lot of eye candy stuff, a lot of misdirection stuff, because that's their only chance to have success against a bigger team. And, so you have to be pretty disciplined, and you saw that on the first play. I mean, I'm sure that was a bust. But after that, they were in the right place, and they made a lot of plays and created some turnovers. They scored in special teams. They did a lot of things well. I mean, look, they look like a really good team. I'm just not going to be the guy that goes, oh yeah, here they go, because I mean, it was Mercer, and that wasn't the most athletic team in the world. And like I keep telling people, when people say, what do you think? They play Alabama 3 weeks from today. We're going to find out. I mean, we're going to find out really soon what they are or what they aren't, because they play Alabama 3 weeks from today. They play LSU right here in this stadium 4 weeks from today. But if you are using today as a point of reference, I think the odds are overwhelming that you're pretty pleased with what you saw. It's a deep team. We knew that. It's a talented team. We knew that. I think they're more balanced on offense than they were a year ago. I think they're a little better up front. They're certainly a little deeper than they were up front on offense a year ago. Defenses are going to key on Quinshon Judkins and try to take him away. And they have an arsenal of guys that can make you pay for that. That's before we even see Caden Priestcorn. That's before we potentially see Zachary Franklin. There's more weapons that that haven't even been utilized yet. What really struck me today was how much more comfortable, and Jackson had told me that he was more comfortable when I talked to him at the beginning of camp. It's very obvious that he's more comfortable in the offense. He's more comfortable in his role. I think the game is moving a little slower for him. I think there's less things rolling through his brain pre-snap and that kind of thing. I think he's more decisive, and I thought that was pretty evident when you watched him play today.
Back to Dart for a second. I mean, what do you feel? I mean, we're speculating, and we'll do a lot more of this on Monday. I guess this is just the quick little reaction for the postgame show. But what is it that is going to make Lane not do this anymore? I mean, I get time goes on, but Altmaier was kind of like manipulated into being more of a part of the second game last year when they played Central Arkansas. I mean, what does this look like? I mean, what would you even predict right now if I told you to predict it?
I mean, I think Jackson's the starting quarterback. I think he's been the starting quarterback for weeks. I don't know why publicly we're doing this, other than perhaps it's just an attempt to keep Spencer Sanders as locked in and as possible. Maybe there's concern on his part that Spencer would walk away from it. I don't know. I mean, I'm totally guessing. I have no clue. What I know is that Jackson Dart has started 13 of Ole Miss's last 14 games and very much looks the part of a starting quarterback. And, at some point you have to show confidence in your guy, and you've got to say, hey, he's our guy and we believe in him. And, because the next obvious question is, well, what happens if he throws an interception? If he has a bad drive or two, is he looking over his shoulder? Are we doing how does this work? And, because like I said, they're getting ready to start playing some better teams. I mean, Tulane in a week and Georgia Tech here in 2 weeks, and then the rest. I mean, Alabama, LSU, it's boom, boom, it's right there. So we're gonna know a whole lot about this team in 4 weeks. And so I would think you want your quarterback to be as confident and secure as possible. But look, I'm not a head coach, so I don't know what all the dynamics are and what the relationships are with those people. And Sanders came in, and I thought Sanders played well. I mean, it was late in the game, but he did some good things. And so it's probably a nice problem to have, but I do think at some point there's the potential for it being a problem for them, where if Jackson makes a mistake or two, and you put in Sanders and he plays well for a little bit, what happens then? I mean, I think keeping both of these guys happy over the course of a season is going to be a challenge.
Georgia Tech, meanwhile, last night losing to Louisville, really gave a game away last night. They played pretty well, but the Cardinals win that one 39-34 in Atlanta for that game. They've got their FCS game this week. They play South Carolina State prior to Ole Miss in 2 weeks, 6:30 back at Vladimir Way Stadium for that start time. Yeah, I mean, Jackson Dart, I mean, it was almost perfect. 18 of 23, 334, 4. 257.
One of those was a drop. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sanders 8 of 14, 134 for him in 2.
Yeah, I mean Jackson, 4 TDs, no picks. I didn't think he missed through a ball really the whole day. Kind of pulled the string on one where I think as he was letting it go, he didn't think he was throwing it to the right place and basically threw it away. But he was pretty close to perfect. I didn't think he stepped up and took a hit and made a really nice throw. I thought he converted some third downs. He just did a lot of good things. He looked like a very good quarterback. But again, it's Mercer. But I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked much improved over a year ago. I don't remember a game last year where I thought he looked that in command as he did today.
And then it's a really, really small sample size late in the game against an FCS team, but Walker Howard, 3 for 4 for 56 yards in short time there for him. He was fine.
Yeah.
No issues.
He was fine. Yeah. I was hardly watching at that point. I was trying to get stuff done, and I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, at that point, 66-7, your focus is a little shot. And I feel like I can admit that most of the stadium was emptied out by that point. I have a feeling that there were a lot of people that had emptied out into bars and the Grove and things of that nature, so they had lost their focus as well by that point.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss was 1 score away from their most points ever in a season opener. That is from UT Martin. No, actually, this might have tied it. I don't remember. It was either tied or just behind the UT Martin Ole Miss game in 2015 under Freeze and Chad Kelly and whatever that was. The Jason Simpson game we always laugh about. I think they scored 76 in 2018 against Southern Illinois, and then they were pretty good ways away from the all-time record. That was 114 against Southwest Baptist. Jordan Watkins with a
Southwest Baptist sucked, man.
Yeah.
Southwest Baptist was a bad team.
That is very true. Yeah, 114 in 1904. Hey, it's much because it was maybe my favorite stat of the day is 10 years since a punt return for a touchdown. Jordan Watkins doing it today. Jeff Scott, the last time that it happened for the Rebels. There was a lot of years where the goal was just to catch the punt, and no matter what, do not move it forward, do not do anything, just catch the ball and then move forward. But 10 years they break that streak today since the last time that happened. That is an amazing stat that it took 10 years to return a punt for a touchdown.
I always felt like Corvick Meat was right there. I mean,
Yeah.
I always felt like this was the one that he was taking it to the house.
You had Corvick, and then for a while they couldn't find anybody, so it was Jordan Holder's job to just catch the football. Just catch it.
Yeah, don't
That's
run.
it.
Just catch it. Just catch it. Yep.
Yeah. Ole Miss had 2 drops, by the way, from the receivers. Again, Trey Harris, the big day. But anyway, just something I see there. They also were really, really good on 3rd down, completed a 4th down as well. So we'll get into it as the week goes on and tomorrow, but tons of stats in Ole Miss's favor in a game that they won to the level they did. Scores around the SEC as of right now. State up 48-7 on Southeastern Louisiana. That game ending 1:17 left in the 4th quarter. Georgia has been incredibly sluggish today. They're up 7-0 on UT Martin midway through the 2nd quarter right now. They're in Athens. 7-0 Bulldogs and Jason Simpson, as speaking of, midway 2nd right now. They are driving. They're at the 12-yard line, but 7-0. A&M plays tonight. Alabama plays tonight. Vanderbilt plays tonight. Hawaii showed pretty well last night. Stanford beat them by a couple scores, but might want to give Clark Lee a little more credit than I've been giving as the week has gone on. North Carolina, South Carolina is the big one that's starting in about half an hour, and then LSU tomorrow. Looking here, Kentucky ends up covering 44-14 over Ball State earlier today. So that one did not go well for the home team. And then Tennessee covering easily. They rout Virginia there in Nashville, 49-13 over the Hoos today. And then
What did
Arkansas,
Auburn do?
Auburn covered, I assume. I don't remember the line, but they won 59-14.
38.
Yes.
Yeah,
38. Yeah, they covered. Yeah. Yeah, easily. Sorry, mind. 45 is what they won by. Yeah, Freeze had it cooking there on the Plains. Auburn scored 21 in the second quarter and 21 in the third quarter, outscoring them 42-0 over those 2 quarters.
Praise be to God.
That'll do it.
I'm sorry. That was a great performance by them.
My question is, did he get pulled? This is for the stream. Did he get pulled, or did UMass bench their starter? I talked all that about UMass's quarterback all week, and he might have gotten benched. They played 2 quarterbacks today, or maybe they just pulled him once the game was in hand. I don't know.
I am unaware.
Peyton Thorne for Auburn, 10 of 17, 141. And then Robbie Ashford played a little bit. I don't know what he did. The stream says, go ahead.
I think Ashford played well.
Did he really? Okay.
Yeah, I think look, Ashford's the kind of guy that, for some of the stuff that he likes to do running the quarterback, he's gonna fit that pretty well.
Yeah. And then I see in the stream they're saying Kincaid Den is currently 4 for 8 for 6 yards for UT Martin. I mean, Georgia defensively is the offense that we're all wondering about, and that's the question. So we'll see. Any last takes, thoughts today? Oh, did Lane mention crowd at all?
He did not mention the crowd.
That was good. Good for him.
That was good. That took some discipline on his part, but he did not.
Okay.
No, he was pleased with his team. I mean, look, I think this is a really good team. I've said that for a while. I do. I think this is a really good team. I think it's going to end up being a really good division. Today did nothing to change my mind on any of that. You look at Auburn doing what they did against UMass and State doing what it's doing against Southeastern Louisiana, and Arkansas did what it did with Western Carolina, and Ole Miss did what it did with Mercer. And, I think it's going to be a really interesting season in the West because someone has to finish last, and I don't think there's a bad team. But Ole Miss is a really good team that I think has a chance to be an elite team. They've got to put a few things together on defense still. I think there were some moments defensively where I thought they looked a little slow. Some of that just might be because when you're up so big, you just don't play with the same level of intensity because you're human. They played a lot of players in the first half. I thought that was a real positive thing for them in building depth. And then offensively, I think it's, like we talked about, I think it's got a chance to be a really explosive offense. And but I'm trying to be super cautious in my own mind that I'm not taking too much away from 73-7 over an FCS team that is probably a pretty average FCS team, is my guess. They're just not very big. I didn't see a lot of speed. They weren't particularly good in any facet. So I'm just trying to sort of say, hey, we're going to learn a lot more starting next week. And we will. We'll learn a lot more about this team in the next few weeks. But I think all of the pieces are there for this to be a really fun, interesting, good Ole Miss team.
You could also wait a little money today if anyone wanted to take the Rebels to cover. I think you could have gotten that line actually in the 30s today against the Bears. Yeah.
I wish someone would have told me because I would have taken it.
I think at one point Jeffrey told me he got it. Let me run back through that real quick. Let's see what he had that as.
Because I think I told you all week I thought this was going to be an absolute mauling.
Yeah,
which is exactly what it was.
Jeffrey got it at 34.
Oh, God. Jeffrey should have called me.
Yeah, 34 on that one.
I would have paid a couple of mortgage notes with that.
You felt real good about 34.
I just told you all week. I was like, I don't know why this is going to be an absolute blowout. I mean, I thought it would be. I don't know what I picked in picks. I just threw a number out there, but my honest thoughts were 60-something to 7-10. I just thought it was going to be bad. When they couldn't score more than 17 points against North Alabama, I thought they're not scoring against Ole Miss. Athletically, they just won't match up. And I knew Ole Miss would score at will. I mean, Ole Miss could have scored 100 points today if it wanted to.
I'm going to ask you this again on Monday, but what's your overreaction meter on Colorado and TCU?
You know what? I think Colorado, after watching them today, I don't know what kind of depth they have. They're going to be fun. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to be a lot of fun. I mean, look, and if he can recruit a couple more years, he's got a really good. What he doesn't get credit for, Chase, is he's got a really good coaching staff there.
He does.
If you ever look at the coaching staff that he's put together, it's kind of impressive. And then on TCU, I think my reaction is last year, they're the baseball team that wins a whole bunch of one-run games. And the next season, people hype them up, and you're like, man, they could have easily been a different team. TCU won a lot of super close games last year. And to their credit, they had a special season. They went to the national championship game. Not taking anything away from them, but they would have had a hard time repeating that season if you played it again. I think you kind of see that a little bit now. They're limited.
I assume Lane had no further comment on Michael Trigg.
He did not. Other than I asked him specifically if the plan had changed for him at the half, because you couldn't help but wonder if the plan was for him not to play today. And then when they were down to one tight end, because Prescorn obviously wasn't available, and then Wolf got hurt, and you're down to just Heath. I don't know where Javante Connor is or isn't.
He was dressed. I saw him dressed, but beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah. Trigg was not dressed, and then he got dressed.
Yes.
And so I asked, and he said that was not interrelated. So, again, I have. I'm skeptical, but I'm going to take him at his word.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. I have no proof that it wasn't the case. Kari Coleman, I know, played in the second half. I'm not sure if he played in the first. Xavion Harris played the whole game.
And played well. Really good today. Xavion was their best defensive lineman today outside of Cedric in the first half. He
did. So, the preseason.
The discipline was not. Yeah, it was not iron fist today.
No, it's pretty lax. This is it's. Yep.
Yeah, you're playing SEC football. Anyway, what's the spirit? I know spirit of choice. You got about 50 minutes right now to get ready for South Al and Tulane. Isn't it 7:00?
I don't know. I don't know. I think tequila's in my future here fairly soon. I think Laura said something about an Aperol margarita. She'd found a recipe for an Aperol margarita, and as someone who really likes margaritas and who also likes Aperol, I said, why not?
You're good with the Aperol? It's not kind of bitter at times for you? You're okay?
No, I like Aperol. I like Aperol. I like Campari. I like both. And then she said that you put a Prosecco float on the top of it, and as someone who also likes Prosecco, I said, hey, why not? I'll try one, and if it...
so it's kind of Aperol spritzy, but not.
No, it's tequila triple sec. It's a margarita with Aperol in it, and you put the thing on the top. And, it's kind of like combining a margarita with an Aperol spritz. And listen, I'll admit this out loud. If you want to take my man card, go for it. I'm cool. I live in a house full of women, and I like Aperol spritz. I'm cool with it. When they're like, hey, let's do Aperol spritz, I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, no, I can't do that. It's not the most masculine drink in the world. No, I'm good with that. When Campbell and Caroline are home and they want to do Aperol spritzes, I'm perfectly fine operating in that world.
Okay. Yeah, Aperol Spritz is kind of like the new Pimm's Cup. That used to be like the thing that went around whatever, and now it's the Aperol Spritz that's...
Yeah. I've seen guys make fun of it. And I'm like, man, listen, I'm cool with it. There are worse things than an Aperol Spritz.
So you're TV wanting and TV twoing, and you're doing the YouTube TV thing on South Al, Tulane, and then South Carolina, North Carolina.
Yes, and I'm gonna put Cubs Reds on my computer and hope that they don't ruin my night. Last night the Cubs ruined my night to the point that I turned everything else off. I was so mad at them blowing a save.
So they were up in the ninth?
They were up in the ninth with one out, nobody on, and blew it. But it happens, you know. I keep reminding myself, they're not good enough to win. They're not good enough to win. Let it be. Just let it be. And then in the moment, I have a hard time doing that.
You're previewing my NFL football season when I get really pissed off at the Saints for blowing a game to move to 6-5 on the season. And you go, okay, but what difference does it make?
Yes, you are going to experience, yes. When you go, hey, the Saints are not winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're not winning the Super Bowl. You're going to tell yourself that, and on Tuesday through Friday, you'll be fine. And then Sunday's going to roll around, and they're going to be up 23-14 going into the fourth and lose the game to drop to 7-5, and you're going to just be steamed all day, and then you're going to get mad at yourself because you're like, why do I do this to myself? They're not good enough to go to the Super Bowl, and I know it. Yet they're right there.
I'm just trying to win this shitty division right now. That's all we're doing. We're just trying to win the bad division.
What you do, and you're like, I'm just trying to win the wild card here.
Yeah.
But I know, because then the part of me goes, boy, but if they got into a wild card series, Steele pitched a really good game, and I hate myself for it. I let it kind of piss me off last night, and then I got pissed off at myself for getting pissed off.
I think I've had a really bad day in picks to the point of I don't know that I've gotten but one game right that's had an actual line to it. And then it looks like your Siskey picks are not going overly well either. Boise State getting wrecked by Washington right now, 56-19 Huskies in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And Cal worked over North Texas pretty good as well.
Did they?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see a final, but they were up several touchdowns at one point. So.
The level of preparation that I put into those picks it typically is reflected in the results.
Yes. You definitely, it takes longer to build the actual content item than the preparation to put the picks into the content item.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I was very proud of everybody involved, though. This was the first time in modern history that everyone's picks were in by mid-Wednesday. I was so pleased. Because I was so prepared to go, why are you people taking this seriously? Let's just get it in. Let's go.
Yeah. I gotcha. So, all right. We'll be back with another podcast with you on Monday. Take care. Get home, and we'll talk as Tulane and South Alabama play tonight.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, later. Neil McCready there joining us on the hotline. Again, Pete Deweese, Jeffrey Wright as well. I really hate I cut Jeffrey off here at the end because I was enjoying talking to him as I do every single Saturday. He's giving up a lot of his time for that. And then Pete jumping in, kind of unexpected there as well. A lot of content up at rebelgrove.com. Again, the games we're watching tonight, Tulane, South Alabama, Ole Miss's next opponent. And then South Carolina, North Carolina also there with us too. So good stuff coming up on those, and we will be back Monday for the podcast. What just happened right there? I have no idea what happened. Let's see. Let's go to a different page just to try to protect whatever that was. Yeah, I don't know. Picture went away. That's fine. We'll find it. We'll get it back. Anyway, thanks to you guys. That stream messing up really screwed me up there. So you having some patience, sticking with me, that was huge. I can't thank everybody enough for doing that. Ole Miss looks really good today. You guys probably in a good mood, and going to the night games happy. Is I think the Rebels take care of Tulane pretty handedly next week. Even if my picks this week have not reflected that very well, I think they're going to do well in Uptown New Orleans, just off Carrollton, playing the Green Wave. So, again, really appreciate that. Jeffrey, Pete, and Neil. Be back on Monday for another episode of the show, a full week heading into Ole Miss and Tulane. And we'll talk to you then. Take care and have a good night.